I want to show you what's supposed to go here. Can you see the shape? That space was saved for an in-ground pool. I kind of feel like the ultimate DIY would be building your own pool, so why not give it a shot? Step 1 is picking out your kit, ordering that and all the accessories, and then step 2 is excavation, and that's what we're doing today. Now we obviously have a whole lot to do in this space. These boulders need to be moved, and we will start digging this next week. We're gonna make the hole here, retain this corner of the lot. As soon as the hole is dug and the kit gets here, we can begin assembling the wall structure. And there's steel panels that kind of connect together. There's a whole big process that goes into it, and then you drop a vinyl liner into it at the end. So I'll be walking you through each step. I'll be giving you a budget, and let me know if you have any other questions about how this goes down. I'll try to answer all I can. We found and chose our kit from royalswimmingpools.com, and I will definitely share the pros and cons of this company, working with them, at the end of this series. This is not a sponsored series. We paid for this entire project ourselves. We did buy their basic kit, but then we customized it and added quite a few things. We added a heater, we added some step jets, we added the tanning ledge. The question I've been getting the most is, how much does it cost and how much are you saving? Is it worth it? So for each one of these videos in this series, I'll be giving you a cost breakdown. In this video, we purchased our kit, we got some help with excavation, we borrowed some equipment to finish excavation, we put in a fence, and we have a permit. We did purchase all of our equipment in 2022, and everything was on back order, and it took a long time to get our first shipment. We had quite a few deliveries over the course of about 2 months where everything came in pieces. I had a guy that was coming to fix our retaining wall around the edge of our property, and while he was here with the excavator, I had him do a really quick rough dig. So after you pay, you will go to engineering, and they will engineer a drawing or a dig spec for you and send it to you. And then you need to make sure that your hole matches all of those measurements. So right now I'm working on making sure that my deep end is exactly where it needs to be. You have all the lines that you need right there. That's going to be, I actually have this the wrong way. This is actually going to be our shallow end. Our deep end is over here. I rented a mini skid today just to kind of clean up some of the edges and make sure we have enough space. So that's what we're doing today. Now, when I say he did a rough dig, I mean a rough dig. The measurements were not accurate. Our bottom was not level. We needed to widen the hole a ton. So then I actually did have to also rent a mini excavator so that I could really get it to the size and spacing that we needed it to be. In order to install this pool, we needed an over dig measurement of 2 feet all the way around the pool for reasons that I'll explain later. We were nowhere close to this. So as I learned how to use this mini excavator, no, I've never driven one before, I was able to widen the sides and the back, the 2 feet that we needed of over dig, so that the pool walls and the whole setup would fit in here properly. I used a level and a laser to help me to get my measurements correct, even though I ended up being a little bit off in the end. Neither my husband or myself have ever driven an excavator like this. This was all new to both of us. He never actually wanted to try, so I ended up driving the whole time. And I actually enjoyed the process quite a bit. That was just a little 12-inch bucket. It's gonna be fine. Once I had the pool area and hole to a space where I thought that everything would work well, I went over here to the side of the house where the pool equipment would be so that I could dig a trench for all of the plumbing and electrical that will need to be attached to the pool. As we were going through all of our materials and equipment, we realized that they forgot quite a few things, and we were waiting on the back order shipments that were still needing to be delivered. Once we had most of our supplies, we went ahead and got started putting in the walls, or at least trial running the process of how these went together. We have extremely dry and rocky soil, so I was told that it would be best to use pavers in between the joints and in the middle of the very long walls. So I started digging out spaces and leveling pavers where the joints would be by using a 6-foot level and then my little tiny level here, my torpedo level, to get the blocks all ready for the walls. Once that was done, it was a little easier to set the walls in place and make sure that they were level. As long as the pavers were level, the walls were level. Installing these pavers by myself was pretty tedious, and it took a really long time, and the longer walls, the 8-foot panels, were quite heavy to lift into place. My husband would help me bring them down into the hole, and then when it was time to set them up, I was able to do that. As long as the pavers were level, it would stand up. These pieces that I'm bending right here are the braces that hold the wall in place from behind. So they would bend and then attach to something called a turnbuckle, which allowed me to move the wall forward or backwards to make sure it was plumb. So the brace would go attached to the back of the wall, and then I would stake the brace into the ground. And then at the top, it has like that little screw area where you can move the wall forward or backwards, which was helpful after we poured cement around the collar. You can see here too, in this wall panel, there's a hole there at the bottom, and that is a return line that was pre-cut from Royal Pools when we got the pool. They had pre-cut out where the skimmers would go and where 2 of the returns would go. One of the things I wish I would have done differently was use the excavator to excavate the deep end. In the instructions that we received, it had in bold letters that overdigging was a huge problem and something to be avoided. And I was really nervous, since I wasn't very good at using the excavator, that I would accidentally overdig the deep end. So we ended up hand digging the deep end, which was a huge undertaking, and I wish we would have just used the excavator. In the end, you can actually fill if you overdig with rock, which I learned later. So you live, you learn. I've never installed a pool before, and hopefully this is helpful to anybody watching. Now, each of these panels will connect with bolts all the way down in the back, and everywhere that there's a joint is where each one of those braces will be attached as well. In this video, we're installing the wall with the pre-cut skimmer line. We actually added a second skimmer to our plan, and I'm really happy we did. I think in the end, it'll be something that we appreciate. So we have 2 skimmers and 2 return lines before you get to the tanning ledge, which I'll discuss in a minute. Now, because all of our supplies arrived so late in the season, I was really rushing the weather. This is about October 2022, and winter was fast approaching, and I was trying to finish the entire frame before the winter set in. I did not make it, however. As for the deep end, every time the weekend came around, my husband was available, we would get the kids out there, and all of us would work really hard on digging out this deep end and trying to finish up the entire process of the wall build before the snow started. We also didn't want to finish installing all of the wall panels before the deep end was dug, because we needed a place to push our wheelbarrow in and out of the deep end. Now, we did get a permit for this entire project, and as you can see back in the back of this video, we are starting to get a fence installed. That was one of the requirements for our permit, and I think it's also a really big safety issue, so I was really happy to put the fence in, but not happy about the fence pricing. You can also see in the back of this video, there's a hole at the bottom of the wall for the light. It's a pre-cut light niche, which is where our one light will be installed. We did get a color logic. That was another thing that we added on to our kit. It was a little more expensive because it's the color changing light. I'll make sure to talk about the install of the lighting and the plumbing in another video. I'm hoping this series will be helpful to someone else who's wanting to do this process. I didn't find a lot of videos out there, so I thought it would be fun to make this series. Now, one of the things we upgraded as well was the tanning ledge, and that requires steps installed inside the pool walls. The tanning ledge looks something like this, and it allows for a kind of shelf or area that's a little closer to the surface and feels a little safer for younger children or for people who don't necessarily want to get into the deep end of the water. So it starts with a first shallow step, and then second step, and then there's a 6-foot ledge, and then this third step all the way out of the pool. Now, let me be clear, the instructions on this process were terrible, and the only way I was able to figure this all out was by calling their helpline and talking to them about the process. Once the steps were installed and bolted into place, I had completed the entire frame of the pool, and it was a huge celebration. Now, the kit came with these braces that go in between each step to hold the step in place when pouring concrete so nothing gets buckled or moved. I had no idea how these installed, and the instructions were very poor, but I was able to find out that I needed to cut an actual hole where the brace would attach to the wall behind the step. So I used this metal cutout drill bit, and I was able to drill a 1/2-inch hole in the wall of the pool. and then use the same bolts that attached all the walls to this brace to keep everything aligned appropriately. This is how the brace is attached and what it looks like once the step is all installed. And there is also bracing on the smaller steps here that are in front of the tanning ledge. And they look very similar, just to hold the steps in place while we pour concrete. This is a momentous occasion. We just completely finished the panels. They're done. I have to finish putting screws in and then I can order concrete. The next part of this process will be to pour the concrete collar, which goes around the outside of the pool walls and holds them into place. It will also be about plumbing, so make sure to like and subscribe and hit that little bell for the reminders so that you can see the rest of this entire process and the whole DIY pool build.